What is going on, Trash Talkers? We are back with another episode for you. Today we start off by breaking down the Glover Teixeira Thiago Santos main event from this past weekend's UFC Fight Night. Plus, we have some breaking news regarding the bout between Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier and what that means for Khabib moving forward. Also, we debate who will take over the main event at UFC 256 as Amanda Nunez was forced to pull out of the event. Then we move over to the NFL, where we need to have a little discussion about news coming out of New York that the Jets organization have placed video cameras inside the team showers with the NFL's approval. Plus, we discuss the return of Antonio Brown and debate whether or not he had anything to do with Tom Brady's worst career performance. All that and much more coming your way right now. What's going on, Nick? How's your week been? It's been, we've had a lot of crazy things that have been going on, and we haven't had a lot of time to catch up. So, how you been? What's going on?
It's been a whirlwind for me. It's been absolutely crazy, and a lot of it has to do with fantasy football. I don't know about you guys, but for me, this past weekend was a roller coaster of emotions, and it continues day after day after day. There's news and things just keep happening, and now we've got some big news today in the UFC that's got me really excited. So it's been a lot. It's been a lot to handle, but it's been getting better as the week's gone on. So I can't wait to see what the end of the week has in store for me.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up fantasy football because I seem to remember last week where you declared victory over me as we were facing off for the first time this year.
Listen. I can't help that Tom Brady decided, I'm not going to show up today. We're going to get bomb-terrily over here, and he's not going to do anything. Bomb Trady. Fucking his alter ego showed up for this game. Absolutely ruined my weekend.
Tell everyone who your backup quarterback is.
Oh, my backup was Drew Brees.
And who did you joke about putting in before
I may have joked about putting in Drew Brees.
Hey,
yes.
Going into Sunday Night Football, only up 18 points. Right, but I went into Sunday Night Football up 18 points, and Tom Brady throwing 3 interceptions and 209 yards or whatever it ended up being was exactly what I needed to come out on top.
I had 3 players that needed to get 18 points or more, and they combined for 14 points. Absolutely ridiculous. If I had one of those players on the Saints, it would have been a different story, but I'm going to have to tough this one up and move on, because what else can I do? I can't mope around all day. Things got to get done.
Sell the team.
Things keep on happening. We got to keep moving forward.
Yeah, we do. And speaking of moving forward, we have a lot to get to today, and I believe that we should start with the UFC. Am I good?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Are you? Mike's having a little bit of an issue today. I think we both are a little bit. I think it has to do with the week. So excuse us. This one's off to a great start.
We're not live.
We're not live, but
right. That was raw for you to edit it.
No. There's no. We leave this in there. Gotta have those nuggets in there for our listeners and the viewers on YouTube. Subscribe and like. And
over 60% that watch these videos are not subscribed.
I mean, if you look the last 2 weeks, it's like 95% are not subscribed with the amount of viewership that we've been receiving.
Is 95 over 60?
It is.
Okay, over 60% are not subscribed to the YouTube channel. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more. With that being said, we do have a lot to get into. I don't want to just joke around all day. But for those of you who watched the UFC Fight Night or didn't get a chance to, what a spectacle that we were able to witness. And if you haven't been able to hear or see about it, this is where we are right now. We're going to talk right about the main event, Thiago Santos versus Glover Teixeira. And this was a very interesting fight because it was just a massive battle of momentum from one end to the next. And it kept swinging back and forth. And then all of a sudden, obviously, we got crowned a victor. But Glover Teixeira ended up winning this by a third round submission, which we'll get into why that's an anomaly in and of itself for this division. But needless to say, Thiago Santos, he looked like he had this in the bag early on, and then he kind of just let up. What did you see? Am I crazy?
Well, I mean, let's put it in perspective. We have the 41-year-old Glover Teixeira, who's before this fight was on a 4-fight win streak, and then this was the fight that would kind of propel him into that contender range. And then Thiago Santos, who's coming off a year-long drought after coming back from the injury, tore everything in both of his knees, coming back from that bad injury. Obviously known, his nickname is the Sledgehammer in Spanish. Forgive me for not knowing the translation, but we all know Thiago Santos has sledgehammers for hands, and that's exactly what we saw. Thiago Santos brought the heat. Like he showed up. We saw why he is still one of the best light heavyweights out there, and it looked like he had a little bit of rust, and that kind of didn't show up in the beginning. Glover worked his way into this fight, and we really saw it when he was on the ground. And it's really interesting because when you have knee surgeries, and they talked about this, when you have knee surgeries like that, you're not walking for 6 months, right? And so he spent a lot of his time working on his Brazilian jiu-jitsu because all he's doing is sitting on his back and working on submission moves. And so you would expect a guy like that to thrive better on the ground against Glover Teixeira because he was training for so long in BJJ, and it just didn't work out that way. Glover got the upper hand on him, even though Thiago landed some nice shots, and Glover just had the willpower to keep moving forward and not be afraid to take a punch because he knew once it was on the ground, it was over for Thiago. And it really was. The second time he got him down, that's when he took hold of the back and got the rear naked choke, and Thiago had to give up at that point.
Well, so, I mean, you're talking about the second time he got him on the ground, but, I mean, the first time he got him on the ground, it looked like it was all but over, but they were saved by the bell.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's not even a joke. I mean, he was choking him out, and then the bell rings and the round is over.
It was locked in too. It was
locked in. His hand was almost raised to go to tap out, and then all of a sudden it just couldn't happen. But he saw something in the technique of Santos that he could take advantage of, and he did it right away in round 3. I mean, right from the get-go, took advantage of it, got him back to the ground, and then was able to lock in a submission there. And you can literally see that there was no fighting chance for him to get out of the chokehold. And that gives Glover Teixeira the third round submission for the main event. Now he is on a 5-game win streak, and
5 fight.
He's 41. Yes. What did I say?
5 game.
Yeah, 5 fight. Wow, it's been a day. He's on a 5-fight win streak, and he's also 41 years old. Do you believe that he should get a shot at some of these top contenders like Jan or Adesanya or anybody like this?
Well, the thing is, I mean, he's a light heavyweight, right? and he's on a 5-fight win streak. Thiago Santos was the number 1 ranked contender. He beat him. He was number 3 himself. He is going to move up to number 1 contender. I think the real question is who fights Jan Blachowicz first for the light heavyweight title. Dana's been talking about Israel Adesanya moving up to become champ in the light heavyweight and middleweight division. And then you have Glover, who's clearly earned his way into a title shot, but who gets it first? And I think Glover should get that shot first. Israel has plenty of competition. Robert Whittaker, I don't know what Dana was talking about, but Robert Whittaker never said anything about not wanting to fight Izzy again. So I don't know what he's pulling that out of. I think we have to see that fight. And this makes perfect sense. Glover and Jan can fight each other. I think Glover is the next contender. He has worked his way towards this point, and he's not getting any younger. 41 years old is extremely old. I don't care what sport you're in, it's very old. And he's not getting any younger. His body is not going to be able to handle itself like it used to. I mean, you look at Anderson Silva. He was a shell of himself last weekend. And you don't want that to happen to Glover Teixeira, especially in a title fight. And this is something that can be avoided if you make the fight earlier instead of pushing it off. You don't want to wait till he's 42, 43 years old. Try to get it done now and out of the way. More likely than not, I would expect Jan to have an easy shot against him. But Glover is like a fine wine, right? He gets better with age. And I think that his skill set is great against Jan. So it could go either way. And I think the best matchup can only happen as soon as possible. The longer it's pushed off, the worse this matchup gets.
I don't foresee Dana pushing this fight off, just because if there's anything that he's been able to do, it's his ability to capitalize on momentum for his fighters, and that would now include Glover Teixeira and Jan Blachowicz. Those are two major names that people can point to and say this would be such an incredible fight to watch, and obviously would be a main event fight. I think the views and the pay-per-views, they sell themselves on this. So I think that Dana knows what he needs to do. And if you're talking about Adesanya, I mean, not for anything, but him moving up he shouldn't get to face the number 1 contender right off the bat, right?
Because the champion. He would face the champion.
Or the champion. Either one. He shouldn't get to face either one. Because he's moving up in a division, and I still think he needs to prove himself in that weight class before he can do anything else.
Right, and I understand that, but Dana has an agenda, and his agenda is to get Israel Adesanya versus John Jones. That's the end goal in this whole scenario, and that only happens if Izzy claims the light heavyweight title, and then John Jones moves back down from heavyweight, which he still hasn't fought a fight in, and they fight each other for the belt. That's what Dana's end goal is, and that's what he's working towards. That's why he wants to make this fight. So
it's possible, but if I had to take a guess, I would assume that Glover Teixeira versus Jan Blachowicz would be the best next possible fight for this. And then I think Adesanya has a better shot against Glover Teixeira than he does against Jan Blachowicz.
Well, I mean, I think that's pretty obvious, but we're never going to see Glover Teixeira versus Adesanya. Adesanya is the champ. He's one of the best in the UFC right now. He's going to get a title shot right off the bat. He's not going to have to fight the contender for a title shot. That's just not how it works. That's a waste of Adesanya.
What I'm saying is that Glover Teixeira, if he is able to fight Jan Blachowicz, right, and take the title,
well, yeah, then
you have Teixeira Adesanya. That's what I'm getting at.
Okay.
So if I'm Dana, I'm saying, if I want Izzy to have the title, Glover and Jan, you have to hope that Glover wins. If Glover wins, then Adesanya has a much easier road to getting to retaining that title, and then you have the John Jones fight. I think that's the path they have to go, because otherwise you're just doing a disservice to Glover Teixeira by boxing him out of his own division.
If Glover Teixeira were to fight Jan next and beat Jan, it's not going to sell nearly as well as Jan versus Izzy, because no one wants to see at that time it's going to be a 42-year-old Glover Teixeira versus Israel Adesanya. It's just that no one's going to want to buy that pay-per-view.
I don't know. I would be very interested. And again, I'm a casual UFC fan. I would be very interested to see that fight, because Izzy's moving up. Glover Teixeira has already shown that he is by far and away a different animal when it comes to the light heavyweight division, especially because, and we haven't really talked about this, his ability to grapple and his ability to be on the ground and take these guys down. Jan Blachowicz and Thiago Santos and these guys, they can train as much as they want on the ground. There'll never be another Glover Teixeira at the light heavyweight division. I mean, this is where he thrives. He's not gonna. He can strike with some of these guys, but he'll never win striking. He's going to win on the ground, and I think this is the best possible scenario for somebody like Israel Adesanya is that somebody he can get on the ground with, or somebody that he can he's not a striker himself. I think this would involve everything that MMA and UFC have to offer.
So I think we both agree that Glover should fight Jan next, right? We both agree on that. Okay. So
yes.
let's move this conversation. You think that Glover has the ability to beat Jan?
Yes, because of his groundwork ability.
See, I think this is where it gets interesting. We've seen Glover in his last two fights eat major punches, and be able to win because he's able to get them down. But I think
Jan does the same thing.
Jan is one of those guys where he's too strong. Look what he did to Dominic Reyes. Dominic Reyes, who went 5 rounds with John Jones and beat him but didn't get declared the winner, got obliterated by Jan Blachowicz because of
how do you beat someone if you don't get declared the winner?
It's right. Politics. Okay. It's politics.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Anyway.
John Jones won.
Anyway, Jan Blachowicz power is too much for Glover. If he eats, it's right up there with Thiago. It might be even greater. If he eats a couple of his punches, he is not going to win. He will be knocked out. I don't see. That's why I'm saying make this fight now. We all know that the end result is probably going to be the same.
I'm not convinced of that. I really am not convinced of that.
I'm willing to say, like, yes, there's a chance that Glover is able to get him down, and that would make things interesting. I just think Jan, he's too young, he's too quick, he's too powerful for Glover.
But he's also cocky, and we've seen that before.
He's not that cocky.
He is. When he's in the octagon, he absolutely is. Outside of the octagon, not as much.
I wouldn't say he got cocky. It's more he got complacent in his fight against Reyes. And that's when he turned it up in the second round and really took it to him and kept moving forward. And that's when Reyes lost everything.
Right, but you can do that against the Dominic Reyes at this point in time, but you can't do that against Glover Teixeira.
Is the moment you Dominic get Reyes, so I just don't think that Glover has a shot.
Dominic Reyes isn't going to beat him by striking, and that's what he had to have done. It was that simple. Glover Teixeira doesn't have to win that way, and he like if he does win, it's not going to be that way. It's going to be on the ground. And I think he has a very good... I'm not saying he's the favorite or he should even be considered the favorite. I'm just saying you have to give him the credit that he is due, that he has the absolute ability to get it done on the ground.
He has the ability, and it's going to be a good matchup when it happens. I hope it happens sooner than later.
Oh, no, for sure. And that's why I'm saying, again, I think the Glover Teixeira... Glover Teixeira Jan Blachowicz fight needs to happen next, like we agreed on, and then even if he loses, right? At least we got to see the capitalization of Glover's momentum and the highest point of Jan Blachowicz taking on everybody who's got who's coming after him. He would have beaten Dominic Reyes. He would have beaten Glover Teixeira. I mean, and now he's going to have to face Israel Adesanya. Like, that's the progression of people that Jan Blachowicz would then have to face. Both of those fights sell themselves. I can't imagine seeing it in any other pathway.
So we'll eventually see this fight. Glover's number one contender. He's eventually going to fight for the title. But
sure.
This weekend we have a very good fight and a very interesting fight, which started off with Islam Makhachev, who is the up-and-comer. He's 18-1. He is absolutely dominating, and he hasn't fought this year. Everything with COVID and the pandemic, it's really messed things up for a lot of fighters, including Islam. He was supposed to fight Rafael Dos Anjos, and this was supposed to happen earlier this year, and then RDA got COVID, I believe, so they had to push this fight off. And then Islam Makhachev suffered staph infection, which now they're not going to fight each other. But we learned today that Paul Felder is going to step in for Islam, and he's going to take over on short notice. This becomes a very interesting fight because Makhachev is the 12th ranked lightweight in the UFC, and now we're moving up to the 7th ranked lightweight in Paul Felder, who's coming off that loss to Dan Hooker. It was a great fight. And a fight I would like to see again. But right now, Paul Felder against Rafael Dos Anjos, this is going to be a great fight. Dos Anjos looking to reclaim the title at lightweight. He's looking to get his name back up there with the greats, just like he used to be, and turn things around. But at 36 years old, he's not getting any younger. I think that a lot of his prime days are behind him. His career in the UFC has lasted for so long, and I think he's been in so many wars through his career that it's aged him a lot more than his actual age. He may be 36, but he looks like Glover Teixeira at 41. And so
let me ask you this, right? If we have the Felder Dos Anjos fight now set, right?
Right.
If RDA loses this, is his career over in the UFC?
Well, yeah, and that's where I think that if you can't beat a guy like Paul Felder, who has been great in his career, but he's almost felt like a journeyman to me, where he never seems like he's going to get to that title fight. He's kind of just a gatekeeper for the next big fighters in the lightweight division.
He's got flashes of greatness.
Right. If you take that and Paul Felder beats RDA in this fight on short notice, I think RDA is not going to have a shot at moving up and fighting for the title at any point in the rest of his career. Either move to back to welterweight, or you're going to have to call it quits or move on to another promotion, because there's nothing here for you in the lightweight division if you can't beat Paul Felder.
Yeah, I would assume that that's the case, or he just becomes another gatekeeper if UFC even wants to keep him that way. But yeah. I don't know why they would want two of those in the same division with again Paul Felder.
And I mean, RDA is not even. He's low ranked or unranked in the lightweight division, and he is he's looking to get back into this division after moving to welterweight, where he didn't have success. And I think that this is kind of a last chance opportunity, and I don't know how far Dana's willing to go after this, because of the last few fights he's had. RDA has been up and down, and more down in the last few fights. So coming off of two losses, it's tough for a guy like him in his age and the wars he's been through. It takes a toll.
I'm interested to see how the UFC markets this, because the Islam Makhachev versus RDA was a little more appealing to me. Now that it's Paul Felder, I'm not sure I don't want to say interested.
I'm more sold on this. And I think you have to really know who Paul Felder is. He's more than just a commentator. He's more than the guy you just hear every Saturday night.
Right.
He is a legit fighter. He is a beast in the octagon.
To be ranked number 7 in the division, you have to be, of course. I understand that. But for me, and again, I'm not for those of you watching, Nick is the UFC expert here. Like I am the.
I mean, don't call me an expert. I am.
Between the two of us, you have the expert level. I am a casual UFC fan, and I think of it more along the lines of, okay, Islam Makhachev had some name value coming into this fight, and then if he were able to capitalize on RDA, he was really going to make a name for himself and propel himself up the rankings. Now, this is a little setback for him, but my question is, what's to gain from this? Is it because I don't think RDA can move up. He can he's holding on to where he is right now, but he can't move up anymore.
No, I actually I disagree. I completely disagree. I think that if he beats Paul Felder at number 7, he probably shouldn't be ranked in the top 10, but he should at least get another top 10 opponent in the lightweight division to see if this is legit or if this is just a farce, because there's so much competition here. He'll have to fight a guy like Dan Hooker, who has beaten Felder, that is in limbo, which is not going to fight anybody soon. I think that would be the next step for him. And Dan Hooker is ranked 5th or 6th right now in the division, so that would be the progression for RDA if he were to win this fight. But you can't really look past Paul Felder at this point. He is going to be a very tough matchup for RDA. I'll be very interested to see how he approaches him and how he handles him on short notice. But this is a lot harder for Felder, and he's putting his ranking on the line. And he said he's doing this because everything that's gone on this year, everything that's gone on with this country, he just wants everybody to have a fight that they can take their mind off of everything else and have something else to focus on and enjoy themselves. That's why he's doing this. It's not about him proving himself in any way, shape, or form. This is a step down, and he knows it, but he's doing it for personal reasons.
I understand that, but anytime you enter the octagon, especially in with more eyes on you now than ever, you still have to have something to prove. If you go in with a mindset like this is just going to be fun in games, you have a very big blind spot for your competition, and that is not the mindset you need to have going in.
No, it's not. It's not, and I think that he'll be fine. Paul Felder is a professional. Obviously, he's been in amazing matchups before. He's been in when I say wars, I mean absolute wars. He's been in there with the best of the best. He knows what he's doing. And I think a guy like Dos Anjos, who has kind of fallen off the last few years, I think this shouldn't be too difficult for Felder, especially if he's been training just like, most MMA fighters do. They're in the gym almost every day, no matter if they're fighting or not. Right. Felder's in condition. He just needs to make weight and he'll be fine. I don't have any issues. I don't think Paul Felder is going to have a tough time. I think RDA is going to have a much tougher time. This is a much more difficult opponent and different styles too. So RDA is gonna have to adjust for that.
For sure. I wanna kind of go back a little bit. Obviously, like we talked about, Islam Makhachev is now out after contracting a staph infection. I want to talk a little more about him and what this means for him, what this means moving forward. This was supposed to be, a bigger fight. I mean, to really propel him, to showcase his skill set to the bigger, broader general public, get his name out there. Now we have to figure out who his next opponent is going to be. And there's a couple interesting options out there, but I'd like to hear who you have in mind for Makhachev to be able to fight next.
Yeah, well, this becomes pretty interesting. I don't know when Makhachev's going to be fighting next. The staph infections can last a while. They can take some time to go away, and he's going to have to go into another camp. They're going to have to sign another contract.
Mind you, he fought over a year ago. It was September of last year.
Of 2019. 2019, right.
Yeah.
So it's tough. And this is a guy who's only fought no more than twice in a calendar year. He's going... The UFC is taking their time with him. They're kind of grooming him. They want him to be the next big lightweight. And you see it with the opponents he's had. He's never had a big opponent This was going to be like the first recognizable name in RDA for a
Hmm.
lot of the casual viewers, and this was the it's supposed to be the introduction to the general public on
Right.
Islam Makhachev. And so now that this is kind of taken away, I'm not sure where they go with this. He's ranked 12th. He should probably get someone between 5 and 10, but with Felder gone, I doubt he's going to fight Dan Hooker. I don't know where he falls or who he fights next. But if the UFC and Makhachev don't get this going soon, he's gonna lose momentum. He's going the public and the UFC fans, the diehards, are just going to lose interest on him because it's just taking too long. You don't want to take 5 years or more to groom a fighter to be a champion. You
He'll
know,
be the story of what could have been.
exactly, and I think that needs to be avoided. So I'm not sure exactly right now who he would fight, but Makhachev's got to step up. He's got to try to figure out the issue with the staph infection. Hopefully, get that taken care of really quickly, and then possibly get a fight by March.
So what about? I mean, I'm hearing different names out there. I'm just gonna throw some out there, but how about Charles Oliveira or Al Iaquinta or Kevin Lee? I mean, some of these names have been tossed out there that maybe this is where he should end up next.
Yeah, they would be interesting. I don't know if the UFC wants him to fight some of those guys. It seems like they're taking their time with him because it seemed like RDA was going to be set up to be his punching bag, and they were going to use this to boost Islam because that's really what they're trying to do. They're not really trying to get a guy who's in his mid to late 30s back into the limelight and push him for a title. That's just not what they're
Right.
looking for. They're looking for the young stud. So I think that if they're going to continue on their path of taking their time with Islam Makhachev, they're going to look for somebody, either maybe Al Iaquinta, that might be somebody, or Kevin Lee. I don't exactly know. Those are definitely some names that could be thrown out there for him. Anybody better than that, he's definitely not going to get Dan Hooker. I wouldn't even say he's going to get a Paul Felder. So those names, Kevin Lee and Al Iaquinta, would probably be more suitable for what the UFC is trying to do and who Islam Makhachev is willing to fight.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to say the least. I think Dana White, we talked about he had his workout cut out for him with the Glover Teixeira and Jan Blachowicz and Israel Adesanya triangle of madness. Now he's got to figure out how to capitalize his young stud and get him into the limelight as well. But there's good news for Dana White in the UFC, and that would be that Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor have finally signed their contracts for their second fight. They will now be fighting each other in UFC 257, which will be taking place in January of 2021. Conor McGregor came out earlier, I guess it was like the end of last week, and said that he wanted to fight in 2020. And he was like annoyed that nothing was getting done with Poirier and things were getting a little tense. And then we were even thinking about, okay, well, if this deal isn't going to get done, who should McGregor fight next? And does this mean that they're going to throw him against somebody like Justin Gaethje, and then have the winner of that fight Khabib. So there's a lot of implications going on with this. Finally, again, they got this deal signed. This just happened. This is breaking news. I mean, we expected this and then we didn't expect it, and now it's happening. So the roller coaster of emotions for you specifically continue here. What do you expect from this fight, and like what should we be looking forward to as we approach January?
I definitely expect this fight to go longer than 2 minutes, like it did unlike it did in the first fight.
Right.
Conor put him away quickly, and it really wasn't a fight. But I think that Poirier, this is years later. Poirier is a much different fighter. He's had his trials and tribulations. He's fought Khabib. They both lost. They both had some good time with him, and they've both grown from that. I mean, we saw in January Conor against Donald Cerrone and those shoulder strikes that were very unique, something that we really haven't seen like that. And then Dustin Poirier, who just won has looked sharper in his time since since he's fought Conor. So this is going to be a very good matchup. I'm never gonna bet against Conor unless he's fighting Khabib. So I'm still gonna take Conor in this fight. I think that this is going to be a Conor matchup. He finds your weaknesses. He's gonna study you. He's gonna break you down, and I think that he'll be able. He's going to continue to move up. Like be put in that limelight while Khabib's on the sideline. Put Conor back into it and get him roaring again in the UFC, make all the noise. This is the perfect fight to do it at the start of the year. Let this be the season he was looking for this year. Put it in 2021, get him at least 3 fights, and I think Conor could make pretty quick work of Dustin. It'll be a great fight. I think that Dustin will put up a great fight, but I think Conor is just too strong. I think he's he'll be able to figure out and dissect Dustin Poirier. So I expect Conor to move on, and things could still happen. We're still 3 months away from this fight actually happening. So we'll talk about it more as we get closer. But it's great to finally see that this fight was confirmed. Now that it's on paper, they can both get ready, get prepared. They're going to get into camps in probably a month and a half. And then they'll get to work and start figuring things out. So glad to see this on paper. The surprising thing and what I thought was going to happen was with the news of Amanda Nunez pulling out due to an undisclosed injury of UFC 256, which is in December. This was prime for Conor McGregor to get his wish of fighting in 2020, put the Conor versus Poirier fight on this as the main event, and this is still plenty of time for them to go through a full camp, or mostly full camp.
Mostly full camp, but they would also have the same amount of time.
Exactly. So that would have made a lot of sense. But the news of Amanda Nunez pulling out was huge. This was a huge hit. The UFC and Dana wanted to end the year strong. We already have Petr Yan and Aljamain Sterling on this card as the co-main event, but that looks like it might get bumped up and they might have to fill some spots. Do you think that there's any other fights that they could put together to put on this card to make it as exciting as we thought it was going to be?
Well, for sure. I wouldn't even want, if that fight gets bumped up, I'll be a little disappointed in Dana because I think he's a little more creative than that. I would like to see somebody, I'll just throw this out there. I'd love to see Jon Jones fight. I haven't seen him fight in a long time. Him versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik would be an incredible fight to throw on here. I think that would be probably even bigger than the Amanda Nunez headline main event for UFC 256. And what a perfect way to end 2020 as well, with Jon Jones taking the octagon, taking the stage in front of everyone. And, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of shots, verbal shots taken at Israel Adesanya as they, continue to go back and forth. And it'll be interesting to see nonetheless. But if I had to put money on it, I would assume that this probably won't happen, but I would like to see Dana be a little more creative than just bumping up the co-main event.
Well, yeah, I know it's great. Everybody always wants to see Jon Jones, and the thing with Jon Jones is he's very picky about who he fights. I don't know if he'd rather wait and hold off for the guaranteed Stipe fight for the heavyweight title than take a contenders fight. Unfortunately, I would much rather see this than anything else that Dana put together. Just like you said, I feel the same way. Right. Another fight that looks interesting, and just the beefs just started today. Michael Chandler, the newest signed lightweight from Bellator. He signed in September with the UFC. He was the lightweight champ for Bellator for a long time. and he tested the free agency waters, came over. He got the certification from Khabib as one of the best lightweights in the world. And today he said he either wanted Conor, Poirier, or Gaethje. Then we got the Poirier Conor fight confirmed, and then he called out Tony Ferguson. And Tony Ferguson has yet to respond, but this would be a great fight. I think for Michael Chandler's debut fight, he's obviously one of the best lightweights in the world. He's going to be put up there he deserves a top 5 contender right off the bat, and then should fight for the title possibly. But Tony Ferguson's number 3 in the UFC right now. He's ranked 3rd. This is the perfect opponent for him. Tony's really the only top 5 opponent available. So
Right.
this fight would make a lot of sense. Michael Chandler hasn't fought since August. Tony Ferguson fought in July. They're both ready to go. Plenty of time for them to get ready for December. This would be a great headliner. And a great way to get Michael Chandler into the UFC spotlight.
And that was going to be my point, is that Michael Chandler, for somebody like me, for the casual UFC fan, is an unknown commodity, and to pair him with somebody like Tony Ferguson just throws sirens and bells and whistles off in my head, saying, okay, there's a reason I've never heard of this guy, but there's also a reason they're throwing Tony Ferguson in the cage with him. And I would be very interested to see how he can handle somebody like Ferguson, especially as his UFC debut. I think that would be an incredible way to set the tone for his career in the UFC, and Dana White could either capitalize very, very well with his name, or he's going to throw him to the wolves, and the wolves will do what they do best and just tear him shred to shred.
Yeah, it's not going to end that way. I mean, Michael Chandler, he's amazing. He's an amazing fighter. He's going to have a great start to his career. He's going to have a great time in the UFC, and he's going to benefit a lot. I think that this is a great fight, and to really gauge where he's at, I think that he could beat Tony Ferguson. I think that this is a great fight for him personally, and this is Tony Ferguson agrees to it. This has to be the headline fight, or at least the co-main event, since it's not a championship fight, but it's just as good as a championship fight. Something that a lot of people would love to see, and if they don't know who they are, if they watch it, they're going to enjoy every second of it. So this would be perfect to replace Amanda Nunez in UFC 256.
For sure. I'll be interested to see. Again, this would be the final UFC main event happening for the year 2020. And just to end the UFC segment for us on a good note, just remember that 2020 is almost over. All the shit that we have gone through, everything that we have had to experience together in this country, in this world, it's going to end very soon, and we could possibly see John Jones, Tony Ferguson. We could see some incredible fights at UFC 256 just to cap it all off and bring in the new clean slate of 2021.
Well, let's hope it's a clean slate.
For sure. With that being said, let's move over to the NFL. All right. So it boggles my mind what we're about to talk about, but it is so noteworthy and newsworthy, not just for us, but outside and transcending the world of sports, that there are legal implications. There's a whole litany of different things that we're going to have to discuss.
Yeah, let's get into this, because I don't know how this is not more talked about right now. This is huge.
Well, the NFL's trying to keep it shush, shush.
Oh, yeah,
shush,
and I guess they're telling all the networks to keep it shush too, because I see it nowhere on socials. I see it nowhere on YouTube or anywhere else. All right, so do you want to go through some of the details in this?
Yeah, so before we're talking about, we haven't even introduced the topic. Just so you guys know, this broke last week, so we're a little behind on the news, but nonetheless, you probably haven't heard of it. The New York Jets players found hidden cameras in their locker rooms, and not just the locker rooms, but specifically the shower portion of the locker rooms. The Jets players and their reps alerted the NFL Players Association a few weeks ago that they found surveillance equipment hidden in the smoke detectors within the locker room, like I said, in the shower portion. The NFLPA alerted the NFL in late October, but the NFL says the cameras have been there since the team moved to that facility in 2008. The league concluded that players were aware of the cameras and thus the cameras were compliant with league rules. The Jets have said that the cameras are there for internal security purposes only. Now, I can understand that you have no idea what we're talking about or can even comprehend that somebody would be spying on people in the shower at the organizational level. I want to just put out there that this is a violation of the law. Now, I don't care what the NFL has said. I don't care what the NFLPA has said. I don't care what the players have, have verbally said or not. In New Jersey, which is where the New York Jets reside, they're in East Rutherford, New Jersey. That's where the Meadowlands are. A New Jersey statute that was passed in 2016 declares that this instance is a third-degree felony if victims did not consent to being surveilled or photographed or whatever in a changing or locker room setting. No, it should be noted that no Jets player has ever signed a consent form for something like this. I can't imagine first of all, what went through their minds to even start this. But the fact that Joe Douglas continues on and on about how he is trying to build the best culture in sports, but they are spying on their players in the showers is just some of the most unexcusable, cringy, just terrible things that you could possibly do from one human to another.
Yeah, this is... there is no security issues in the showers. I can guarantee that. If there's something on fire, I think there's enough water there to take care of it. If anything else is going awry, I think the professional athletes who beat people up for a living will be able to handle it. So
right, and there's no reason that you can't have multiple security cameras pointing at doors and hallways, and that way you never miss an angle of people entering the locker room.
Yeah,
right.
And it's a protected facility too, so no one's going to be there that's not supposed to be there. They have security everywhere. You don't need these cameras. I've read up on a few articles, a few beat reporters for the Jets who talked to some of the players. Every single one of them said, I never signed a consent form. I don't consent to this. I don't know why this is happening. This should have never been a thing. And yet the NFL, like you said, says they were there since they got there. They either should have known about it or it's just, it's not a big enough deal for us to take any action. This is ridiculous, man.
The NFL will be at fault because they are the parent organization to the New York Jets, and being aware of this and not disciplining them or even going to the authorities with this information they will be subject to civil and possibly criminal lawsuits moving forward.
For sure.
There's a whole hell of a lot to dissect here, and we don't have every single detail. This is still unfolding, but the fact remains that these players' rights are being violated and nobody is talking about it. And it disturbs me to no end that people like Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman or Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp, none of these guys are willing to talk about it because they're too scared about their precious contracts with the NFL. The fact remains that if they're not afraid to talk about any other social injustice, But when it comes to spying on people in the showers, when it comes to seeing video surveillance in the showers, in the locker room, for a team of 53 plus, 10 practice squad players, it's despicable to me. And I can't imagine how this is not of concern to any of these guys who are always concerned about the players and all the issues that they have going on. To me, there is a lot of culpability around here, and it starts with the Jets organization. Obviously, if this happened back in 2008, it's not on Joe Douglas, but it's definitely on Woody Johnson. It's definitely on Christopher Johnson. It's on these guys who knew what was happening at an organizational level. And far be it for me to, connect these dots, but I can't imagine that any other organization that does this, like I can't foresee any other organization doing this. And it kind of speaks to the fact that, this organization has been so lackluster and such a joke in the NFL for so long that they're doing stupid shit like this. I mean, they are considerably the laughingstock of sports, let alone the NFL.
Yeah, they take it right from the Knicks. I mean, you have James Dolan, who has been one of the worst owners in all of sports and led a terrible organization. And it's kind of unfolding with this organization, the New York Jets. They obviously don't care about their players. They don't care about their privacy, and they just don't. I guess they feel entitled to, hey, we're paying you. We deserve to know where you're at all times. Like they are so far above and beyond where their threshold is of privacy, and where the player where they are allowed to see the players and where the players are allowed to be private. They need to there needs to be action here, and some players got to step up. I know Chuma
Edoga,
not Chuma Edoga, Enunwa. I can't remember his first name, but Quincy Enunwa. Thank you. I was combining Chuma and Quincy. Anyway, Quincy Enunwa said he talked to one of the beat reporters and said, why are the Jets doing this and getting away with it, but when I go take my wife out for lunch on Veterans Day and she's a veteran, I get in trouble for it. Like, these things make no sense. The players are getting in trouble for things that really aren't against protocols, yet you have a clear violation with these cameras, and the players get no say unless they want to take personal legal action against the team. They get no help from the Players Association or the league itself.
Right. And I mean, again, there are so many. I mean, hearing about this, talking about this, continue to be so many thoughts racing through my head. But for Jets fans, for Jets faithful who are praying for the tank for Trevor, if you're Trevor Lawrence and you see the Jets at number 1 and you're reading this shit happening, why wouldn't you go back to Clemson? I don't care what amount of money is on the table. I don't need Joe Douglas and Christopher Johnson spying on me in the showers because I'm getting paid whatever amount of money. It's disgusting. It's a human rights violation. It is so beyond the pale that there has to be some sort of legal action taken against the team. And the fact that the NFL is not only aware of it, but they are basically compliant with it and saying that this is okay is just baffling to me. I can't imagine any other scenario in which an organization, even outside of sports, would be allowed to put cameras in the bathroom or the shower area of their building and say, yes, this surveillance equipment is for internal security purposes only. that building, business would be shut down immediately. And the fact that nobody's talking about this shows their true colors for all these people who are quote unquote woke about social injustice issues. This should be at the top of their priority list.
Yeah. I mean, I'm let's leave it at that because you said it best. This is a problem. It's got to get taken care of. But moving on to things that the NFL does recognize and does care about, the play of the NFL. Week 9 just happened, and we had the return of one special wide receiver, Antonio Brown.
Is he special? Because he didn't help you in fantasy, that's for damn sure.
We're over this. We're on to week 10.
We're on to Cincinnati. Antonio Brown did make his return, his NFL debut, after being released from the New England Patriots last year in September. Week 2 was the last time he played. Then he was indefinitely suspended by the NFL for 2 women coming forward and saying that he had sexually assaulted them in some capacity. One brought a civil lawsuit. The other one brought no lawsuit. Those charges are still being fought in court to this day. After his indefinite suspension appeal was heard, they handed down a definite 8-game suspension. Toward the end of that suspension, he was, signed by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They brought him in, and this was his first opportunity to play for the NFL, or for the Buccaneers. Sorry. With that being said, it seemed like on the field, Antonio Brown was being targeted a lot, and they were trying to force the ball to him a lot. They weren't the game plan from, I guess, Bruce Arians, and I can't remember the offensive coordinator's name.
Byron Leftwich.
Byron Leftwich, yes, no, the former Jaguars quarterback. Byron Leftwich, they wanted to get Antonio Brown the ball early and often, and I believe the Saints had that idea in their head saying, this is what they're going to try to do, because this is what Brady did last year in September. Get him acquainted with the offense, get him the ball, and then that's going to open up Mike Evans and Chris Godwin on the outside or in the deep crosser, and we're going to have the rest of the field to work with. They shut down Antonio Brown, and then it was easy from there to shut down Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, who, again, was dealing with a finger injury. He just had finger surgery. A whole hell of a lot going on with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But do you believe that Antonio Brown is a help for them, or is he a distraction for them? And I think we're going to disagree on this.
I completely think he is a help for them. He is. We've seen this offense over the course of the first half of the season. The receivers are like a turnstile, constantly in and out of either the IR, getting surgeries, injured, out every other week. Mike Evans is barely holding it together. Chris Godwin can't hold it together. And you need a guy like Antonio Brown. We saw Tom Brady last year not be able to do anything because he didn't have receivers. Well, this year he has receivers. They just can't stay healthy. So he's throwing to guys like Tyler Johnson and Scotty Miller. Like, this is not what he signed up for. And if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers want to go all in on this season, which they already have, they have spent every single dollar. They're going to lose a lot of players after this year. They need Antonio Brown. He has a very small injury history in his entire career, and when he's on the field, he is the best wide receiver in the NFL. He has better route running than anybody else, which creates great separation. And Tom Brady loves throwing to open wide receivers, and he knows how to hit you perfectly out of your breaks. That's why he's the GOAT. Tom Brady loves this guy. They work well together. They like each other's mentality. They're going to get things going. Once Antonio Brown actually learns this playbook and doesn't have just 2 days of practice before he starts his game, he'll be much better, and he'll have more of an impact on the field. I think that he's going to pay dividends, especially in games like Kansas City, where they're going to be very tough against Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay is probably going to have to score a lot of points. Antonio Brown's going to really help them out in that situation, and then moving forward into the playoffs.
I believe that having him is a distraction, not that necessarily he is going to be a distraction. And let me explain the caveat that I'm talking about. Not the caveat, the distinction that I'm talking about. What I'm saying is that the ball can only go one place at a time. And what we saw is that this offensive line was able to run the ball when they tried, but they went away from it very quickly because they have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Antonio Brown on top of Rob Gronkowski to feed the ball to. And if these guys are not getting the looks and they lose, a lot of tempers are going to start flaring very soon. This is a very volatile situation. We are in unprecedented territory where you have the amount of talent and caliber of receiver that you have this has never been matched before. You can't find another NFL football team in the history of the league that has had this much talent on one side of the ball, specifically offensively. With that being said, the idea that Antonio Brown is now a part of this offense, Byron Leftwich has completely gotten away from Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones being able to run this football. The offensive line is a little banged up, and they're continuing to they're trying to pass every single time down the field. And it's like, you need to open up your passing lanes by having play action. You need to be able to run the ball efficiently. Because if you get down early, like they did to the Saints, you now have become a one-dimensional team, and it's very easy for a defensive coordinator to scheme against just the pass. They never have to worry about you breaking off runs because you don't have time to scheme for the run game anymore. You have to get the ball out and aired down the field so you can close that gap a little bit. I think that this is going to be an immense struggle. We saw Tom Brady and Chris Godwin and Mike Evans get on the same page. Rob Gronkowski, same thing. We saw them all get on the same page prior to this game. You added Antonio Brown and everything fell apart. You have now gone back to square one. This whole offense changes with him.
This game was an anomaly. This game is not because of Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown or not, this game happens the way it happens. Maybe take away one of the interceptions.
No, that's not true. With Antonio Brown now there, the offense has reverted back to the beginning of the season because you are trying to implement such a major piece so late in the season when it was unnecessary. You were able to move the ball. You were able to score points at will. You were able to match any other offense in the league. And then all of a sudden, you add this major piece that is going to command targets, and you're taking away everything else that you've built up scheme-wise about your team. And now you have to start building up again, starting in week 9.
A lot of what you're talking about is flirting with what I wanted to bring up next, and that's Tom Brady's game against the Saints. And you're saying a lot of this is Antonio Brown, and I completely disagree because Chris Godwin had the two fingers that he had surgery on, or he had surgery on the index finger. They were both taped together. He wasn't even catching with those fingers. Tom Brady did not want to throw him the ball, and you saw that. We saw him on the sideline. Chris Godwin was telling him, "Hey, I can catch the ball. Don't worry about me. I can still don't not throw to me when I'm open because I can still catch the ball." And we definitely saw that, but I don't think Brady got comfortable with Chris Godwin. They've been on the field, 4 times this season together, if that, maybe 3. Mike Evans, he's only a red zone target, really, for Tom Brady. He doesn't really get he can't get separation. Marshawn Lattimore has absolutely owned him this year and last year, so Mike Evans wasn't going to do any good. And then Antonio Brown didn't know the playbook. One of those interceptions was thrown because Antonio Brown ran the wrong route. He ran a button hook instead of running a streak. And that led to Tom Brady throwing it right to the defense. And that's just a communication issue. That's something that'll come over time. Where this game fell apart was with Byron Leftwich. And you started out with it. If you saw the routes they were running, they were 10-plus yard routes down the field. What does Tom Brady love the most? Those shallow crossers. He loves those things. He loves throwing over the middle of the field and loves throwing down at your feet where it makes you go and get it so you don't get hit hard. That's what he loves to do. So why not run those? You have Antonio Brown, the best route runner, very similar to Jerry Rice in that aspect. He will be able to torch anybody in the shallow game and run across the field and get separation. Chris Godwin can do the same, playing out of the slot. Mike Evans is going to be commanded by Marshawn Lattimore the entire game, so you don't have to worry about that. You still have these two guys to work with. If Byron Leftwich had run better plays that are easier for Antonio Brown to grasp quickly and something that Chris Godwin is going to thrive in as well, this would have been a lot better for Tom Brady, and they couldn't get the run game going because they fell into a 14-0 deficit very quickly, and that's why they ended the game with 4 rushes, the lowest ever in a single game in NFL history. The Byron Leftwich was the start of it all, and it all trickled down from there to Tom Brady and the receiving core. Without Byron Leftwich terrible play calling, this doesn't happen. This could have been avoided. At least this could have been a competitive game, not one of the worst blowouts we've ever seen, especially with Tom Brady on the receiving end.
Well, if you're talking about the game in whole as a whole, you have to look at Byron Leftwich. You have to look at Todd Bowles. You have to look at Bruce Arians. You have to look at Tom Brady. You have to look at Antonio Brown. You have to look at Chris Godwin. I mean, there's so much blame to go around. This defense looked like a completely different.
They look like somebody else. In the NFL, it's a trickle down effect. It starts with something, and then it either affects the offense or defense. And if one side is not playing well, it's only a matter of time until the other side doesn't play well because they need the momentum from the opposite side. And if one doesn't,
I understand that.
And you saw that the Bucs defense had some shining moments, and then the offense came back out, drove down the field, and turned the ball over, and then the defense was crap after that because they lost all hope and faith and just kind of gave up themselves.
But they could have been a momentum shift. They could have worked harder. They could have schemed better. There was a whole hell of a lot that went wrong for this team.
So put it on Bruce Arians too.
Went wrong.
Put it on Bruce Arians too.
I said his name. He was the third name I said. I said Byron Leftwich, Todd Bowles, Bruce Arians. Those were the first 3 I said. Then it goes to Tom Brady. Then it goes to Antonio Brown. Then it goes to Chris Godwin. And then the entire defense. That's where all the blame goes, right there.
I think you really have to focus in on this offense, especially the offensive coordinator, because these, I just, every single time they're running down the field. I don't get it.
This is not the Byron Leftwich. It's easy to blame Byron Leftwich. No, it's easy to blame Tom Brady. It's easy to blame him
because that's the person to blame. Listen,
no, it's not. There's much more to it.
This isn't Jameis Winston. You can't form him into the quarterback you want him to be. This is Tom Brady, a guy who has performed in his career. You have to shape the playbook around Tom Brady and his playing style. That is short.
They're not
Get the ball out of his hands right away.
They're not going to do that. They've shown that they're not doing that. That's why Scotty Miller has been non-existent for most of the year, unless Chris Godwin is out. I mean, the fact remains that the only thing he's brought to Tampa Bay from New England is his utilization of the tight end position with Cameron Brate and Rob Gronkowski and O.J. Howard before he got hurt.
Every time you see Chris Godwin run across the field, guess what? He's open and Tom Brady throws it to him and they complete the pass because he's running that short to medium over the middle route and getting open. He doesn't need to be super open. Brady hasn't had a many receivers like this in his career. He knows how to do a lot with very little.
This is an indictment on Bruce Arians because this is exactly what they did with Kurt Warner in Arizona. This is exactly what they did with Big Ben Roethlisberger in Pittsburgh. He is not a patient man. He wants to air it out down the field. He wants a vertical passing option. That's all he cares about. He doesn't want the dink and dunk game. That's Josh McDaniels. This is Bruce Arians. This is Byron Leftwich. This is their job.
How are you not?
And
if you're not smart enough to comprehend, I need to adapt my playbook to his playing style because he is better at his job than I am at mine. And you can't figure that out, then you shouldn't be here. Bruce Arians should have gotten rid of you. What showed you last year that Byron Leftwich is a good coordinator? What, the fact that Jameis Winston
threw 30 touchdowns
and 30 interceptions?
That's on Jameis.
Maybe if he had better routes run by his receivers, he wouldn't have so many interceptions. He's just throwing
when you have a
bombs
wide
all game.
receiving core of Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, and Rob Gronkowski, you can never blame the goddamn receiving core. I don't ever want to hear you say a damn thing because
then how come
Cam
none of them
Newton is able to do in New England, as we saw, he's feeding one guy. One guy got the ball.
You're talking about the New York Jets. That's who they faced. We're talking about the New Orleans Saints.
The New Orleans Saints defense is garbage.
That's not true. That's not true. They have been getting better as the year has progressed. We're only halfway through the season. You cannot say,
Teddy Bridgewater tore them apart. And you're telling me Tom Brady can't do the same thing?
A mobile quarterback has that ability. Tom Brady is nowhere near mobile. He is not Jameis.
No shit.
He's not Jameis. He's not Teddy B.
It's very simple on how to beat Tom Brady. Get pressure at his feet. He hates it. He absolutely can't stand it.
They got pressure with 4. I mean, this offensive line was an issue as well. All across the board, this team failed, but it all starts with Byron Leftwich.
What's the one thing that changed? What's the one thing that changed from the week prior when everybody was lauding them as possibly the best offense in NFL history?
We called it best on paper.
What's the one thing that changed?
I'm not saying it. No.
You don't have to say it. I said it for you.
Antonio Brown has nothing to do. He was with the team for 2 practices before this game.
So why was he such heavily utilized in the?
Because they needed him.
No, they didn't. Clearly.
Mike,
you're going to throw an interception because that's what you need?
Mike Evans, we know was going to be locked up by Latimer all night no matter what, so that leaves Chris Godwin and Rob Gronkowski. Did you see Gronk in that game? He looked terrible. Did you see Chris Godwin? He looked okay, but Brady doesn't trust him with the two fingers taped together that he's not catching with.
Brady doesn't trust anybody if you look at him the wrong way. It's the same issue that we had with him in New England. If you're a young receiver, if you smelled the wrong way or you looked the wrong way, all of a sudden he stops trusting you and you never get the damn ball.
You run different routes, this could have been avoided. The pass rush would have not been a thing. The players would have gotten yardage.
But
with the ball.
Brady has the ability to audible these plays too. He can say to Byron Leftwich, to Bruce Arians, we need to fix the way. I mean, they went in at halftime and changed literally nothing.
That's on the coaching staff. That's not on Brady. Brady's not the coach. He can't dictate everything
at the end of the game. Why?
Because they didn't want to be a shutout.
You should have taken the shutout. Would have looked even worse. Maybe you'd actually do something again.
This is a game that if they face in the playoffs, I truly, truly, truly expect it to be different. I don't want to say a different result, but I think it'll be a lot more competitive. Antonio Brown will have been in the offense for at least 8 weeks at that point.
Antonio Brown knows this offense. It's not a viable excuse.
He does not know what Byron Leftwich is not doing.
Byron Leftwich's offense. It's Bruce Arians' offense. Byron Leftwich is only calling the plays. It's Bruce Arians'
Antonio
offense.
Brown, who's out of football for over a year, too.
So my question is, why is he so heavily utilized?
They had to pass every single play.
No, they didn't. This is what I'm saying. By the end of the game, yes, you're right.
By the end of the game, they were down 14-0 in the first quarter. No.
Yes, because you're not letting me talk. The game plan going in was to air out this ball deep down the field all the time. Why wasn't it run the ball? Let's open up the pass game. Why does Antonio Brown need to be the focal point of this offensive game plan? The fact remains that was a very poor decision going into this.
On Byron Leftwich and Bruce Arians. It's not on
Tom
Brady. It's not on Brady. Brady does not call the plays.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot. Tom Brady can't do any wrong with you.
Tom Brady does not call the plays.
He's never done anything wrong either,
He might be given a second if he needs to audible to it. None of them were run plays. That's their fault for not coming out with a better run game.
Tom Brady has the utmost ability, more than any other quarterback in the NFL, to change the play at the line of scrimmage if he sees something that they should be doing differently, and he didn't do that.
You also have to realize
it's on everyone.
He's also facing the Saints. He's used to facing the Saints once every 4 years, and now he's faced them twice in the same year.
He chose to go to Tampa Bay. It's not like he didn't know that.
Drew Brees knows the Buccaneers. He knows his defense. He knows how Byron Leftwich and Bruce Arians coach a game, and so does Sean Payton and the rest of the Saints. It's very different for all these newcomers to the Bucs.
For 1 year? They only saw him last year. That's when Bruce Arians took over.
It doesn't matter. Would you rather have an entire year of a coaching style and a team, or would you rather have one game to go off of that Tom Brady had against the Saints in week 1? From week 1, when you didn't have Chris Godwin, you were dealing with Mike Evans, who had the injury to start the season. Gronk was not a thing. You had OJ Howard at that point. A lot of things have changed.
And which one was the closer game?
The first one.
Right. So take what worked there and utilize that. And they didn't do that. They just didn't.
That didn't win them the game. You know what would win the game? Shallow crossers and running the ball more. Being it's not complicated.
You just added running the ball more. You have never said that. I was screaming about that 2 minutes ago.
I'm not, but you're trying to pin the blame on Tom Brady. It's with Byron Leftwich.
Not just him.
It's the play call.
You're saying that Tom Brady is void of all issues from this
not
game.
Not all,
I'm saying
but most.
That he's no. There is equal blame on everyone. Equal.
No.
Yes. It's that simple. I know Tom Brady's angelic eyes are perfect in your mind, and he can do no wrong. The fact remains that this is not something that Tom Brady had multiple opportunities to make it right. He made poor plays, he made poor decisions, and he did not protect the football. That is on him.
He didn't make great choices in some scenarios. Antonio Brown caused that second interception. They could have had points on the board at that point if they had run different plays. Don't throw the ball 20, 30 yards down the field every single time. It's unnecessary. You have to get 10 yards to get a first down. Stop throwing for the end zone every single time. It's
only unnecessary.
But
in the beginning of the game,
if Mike Evans is running a streak or a post route, and then you have Chris Godwin running a crosser all the way across the field, but it's like a medium or deep crosser, and then you have if you have AB running a corner route or something like that, there is nothing going on over the middle of the field, shallow and over the middle of the field. There's nothing there.
And the offensive line couldn't protect against 4.
Because those plays take time to develop. And they couldn't
hold 4. You're telling me 5 offensive linemen can't protect against 4? I agree with you.
4? The offensive line was an issue.
But another issue is that Tristan Wirfs is being put one-on-one with Cam Jordan.
When you see that the pass rush is getting there with 4, and they're getting to him within 2 or 3 seconds, that's when you know for sure you need to throw that ball quickly. And how do you do that? Quick underneath routes, quick out routes, something of that magnitude. You cannot be running these long routes that take time to develop.
Sean Payton is in Tom Brady's head. I don't care. He absolutely is.
Byron Leftwich
Tom Brady
is ruining this
team. 2-5 against the New Orleans Saints in his career.
Get rid of Byron Leftwich. Get a real offensive coordinator.
Yeah, now Brady comes there and all of a sudden Byron Leftwich is no good, right?
Do you really think Byron Leftwich is
in that offense the week before?
Yes or no? Is Byron Leftwich a good offensive coordinator?
Yes. Yes, he is.
I'd rather have Adam Gase as my offensive coordinator.
Okay, now you're just being stupid. Adam Gase brings video cameras into the locker room, so I don't know
You
if
know
you want
what?
that.
I'd still perform better with him.
I
It'd be
doubt
worth it. I would consent to those.
Cool. All right, now you're finished. With that being said, because Tom Brady failed miserably, that was the basically the end of week 9 for us because nobody gave a shit about week 10 or Monday Night Football. So now we only have week 10 to look forward to. And we are going to discuss 3 notable games that we think everybody should be paying attention to. These are probably going to be the most talked about, the most tightly contested football games, and definitely some great matchups to look forward to. Thursday Night Football is going to be an interesting one. The Indianapolis Colts travel to their division rival Tennessee Titans, and this is a very interesting one because you have a top 5 defense in the Indianapolis Colts, you have a top 5 offensive line, but you have Old Man Rivers and who the hell knows what in the backfield, and a very questionable receiving core. On the other side of the ball, ever since the Titans lost Taylor Lewan, it seems like their offense has been stymied at every step of the way, and their defense without Logan Ryan looks like they are not as potent as they once used to be. That being said, what do you expect from this game moving forward?
I expect the Titans to come out on top in this game. The Colts, they're kind of falling off, and we saw that with Phillip Rivers actually being taken out of the game for a short period of time and being replaced because he just wasn't getting the job done. You know, they weren't scoring points. They were losing to Lamar Jackson, the Baltimore Ravens. And yeah, that defense is good, but Lamar Jackson should not be able to put up the points he is, especially against what is supposed to be the best defense in the league in the Indianapolis Colts. Like, they just couldn't produce, and when they did cause turnovers, the offense couldn't produce. I think it's time for Phillip Rivers to call it a career. I don't care if it's halfway through the season. At least be benched. Like they've gotta take this guy out. Please put Jacob Eason in. He's got a strong arm. He's accurate. He's not that mobile, but he's better than Phillip Rivers at this point. He's the only way you're going to have a chance against the Tennessee Titans. This Tennessee Titans defense is getting better. They played much better this past week. I think that this offense is great. Ryan Tannehill is playing amazing. I think that the Colts are going to struggle just like they did against the Ravens, and it's probably going to be even bigger of a blowout than the Ravens game if Phillip Rivers stays in this game. Phillip Rivers needs to be done right now. Shut him down. End his career. I don't care. He was good for the Chargers in San Diego, and that was it. He's been done for a while. Just cap his career right now. I can't stand to watch him out on the field anymore because you're wasting so much talent. You've got great running backs. You've got great receivers. Do something with it. You can go.
You good? You sure?
I'm good.
Okay. The Indianapolis Colts knew that this year was chalked the moment they signed Phillip Rivers. Jacoby Brissett just ain't it. Jacob Eason was a guy that they targeted in the draft, and maybe they'll bring him on later in the season, but he's still getting used to the speed of the NFL and trying to learn as much as he can from a once great quarterback in Phillip Rivers. It seems to me that Phillip Rivers doesn't have the arm strength that he used to, which is what he relied on for all of his career. His ability to air out the ball and that vertical deep threat that he used to have just isn't there anymore. That coupled with the fact that T.Y. Hilton is a shell of himself, wasn't even active for this past week's game. They're struggling on the offensive side of the ball. Their lack of weapons, and Jonathan Taylor just has not worked out for them in his rookie year.
They got Michael Pittman back this week, and he did nothing. He's a bona fide star, a future star in this league. He should be able to be a difference maker right away, and he wasn't, and that's because of Phillip Rivers.
Nonetheless, the fact remains that there's a lot of issues with the Colts. That being said, the loss of Taylor Lewan has, again, like I said before, stymied the Tennessee Titans offense in the fact that the running game is not producing nearly as much as they did prior to his injury. The utilization of the tight end position has gone down tremendously. And that, coupled with the fact that Corey Davis and AJ Brown are both dealing with injuries, definitely leads to question marks on the outside, wondering if this is enough for them to get back to where they planned on being. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they're struggling getting pressure. They're struggling with coverage, especially on the outside of the numbers. Malcolm Butler is not the same Malcolm Butler that they acquired in free agency. Letting Logan Ryan go was terrible for them, because his ability to command the secondary and just be a leader for this team, you can definitely tell that things have shifted and they're missing something out there. And to me, it simply goes back to his ability, Logan Ryan's ability. What's up?
Don't forget they did add Desmond King, and he definitely showed up for the Titans this past weekend with that touchdown. I know he just picked up the ball and returned it, but he's got some serious speed. He's a Pro Bowl special teamer. He can make a difference on this Tennessee Titans.
He's
defense.
A really good slot corner too, nickel corner.
And they got rid of Vic Beasley, who was probably cancer in that locker room. I would imagine everything has he was a problem from the get-go for them.
Yeah, he was a problem being late to meetings and just not caring at practice and just not giving a shit overall. And then it seemed like him coupled with the acquisition of Jadeveon Clowney, both of those roster moves taking up space for people who are willing to compete. Clowney hasn't done jack all since he wound up in Tennessee. He's done even less than he did in Seattle, and people were he sat as a free agent for a reason, because he didn't produce in Seattle. And it seems like Houston did him a favor, or did themselves a favor, by moving on from him at the time that they did. This is a really good game. It's a divisional game. Things can change for sure. I'll be interested to see the game within the game for this one would be the Colts defense versus Derrick Henry and that ability to run, because Derrick Henry is like an offensive lineman with the speed of a receiver. He's a Mack truck running down the field.
And then you got DeForest Buckner on the other side, 6'6" DeForest Buckner.
That's right.
Amazing for them. Absolutely, he shored up that run defense for the Colts, and that's why they've been so great this year. Is the rest of the team can do their job without having to worry about the run game.
Yeah, 100%. And I guess with the Colts defense, they had some injuries early on, and I think they can really step it up against the Tennessee Titans. One thing to note about this game is this is the first time these two teams play each other this season, but they play each other twice in 3 weeks. So they play this week, then they go play different teams next week, and then they come back 2 weeks from now and play each other again. So they're going to they're going to learn about each other very quickly. And what we see now may not be exactly what we see in 2 weeks. So I'll be interested to see how that all unfolds. Excuse me. Moving on, I want to take a look at another game on Sunday, the
Buffalo Bills
at the Arizona Cardinals. This one's very interesting to me because this, again, you're talking about an East Coast team going to the West Coast for a game. And it's a team that you only see once a year, once every 4 years, and you only go to once every 8 years. So most of these Buffalo Bills, being one of the youngest teams in the league, have never seen this Arizona Cardinals team. And this Arizona Cardinals team mostly hasn't seen this team because of how young they are. I'm I mean, so many matchups to watch. We're looking at DeAndre Hopkins versus Tre'Davious White. We're looking at Kyler Murray and Josh Allen at the quarterback position. Where two young, great coaches, and Sean McDermott and Cliff Kingsbury. I just there's so much to like about this. I, I can't. I'm very excited for this game. I think this is probably going to be my favorite game of the week.
For sure, this is the most exciting matchup we have in Week 10, and it's going to be a big game for the coaches because they're fighting for Coach of the Year, both of them. And you have Josh Allen, who's still in the MVP race. I mean, we just saw a 400-plus yard game and 4+ touchdowns from Josh Allen against the Seattle Seahawks. This team is playing great on offense, and we saw what Tua Tagovailoa just did to them in his second game against the Arizona Cardinals, putting up over 30 points.
Right.
This Bills offense is going to thrive. They are going to absolutely thrive. But then there's Kyler Murray, who put up over 100 yards on the ground last week, can do that constantly. He can make anybody miss. This is a defensive team that has struggled this season, but kind of picked it up last week against the Seahawks, and they're going to need exactly that if they want to win this game. They're going to have to be that aggressive. They're going to have to keep Kyler on the move, try to contain him as much as possible. You don't want him just scrambling because he wants to. You're going to want him to scramble because he has to, and he's going to try to force that ball to be thrown away. You're probably not going to have to worry about too much about the run game. Chase, it doesn't matter if it's Kenyon Drake or Chase Edmonds. Both of them don't seem to be doing that well behind this offensive line in the primary running back role. So I don't think the Bills really need to worry about that. You got to worry about DeAndre Hopkins, arguably the best receiver in the game. Larry Fitzgerald, who shows up on occasion, and Christian Kirk, who's been a real stud for them as of late and can really be a deep threat for them. So the Tre'Davious White and Josh Norman got their hands full this week. It's going to be a better matchup. I'll be more focused on the Cardinals offense against the Bills defense than I will with the Bills offense against the Cardinals defense. Cardinals defense not playing that well. I think Josh Allen should have an easy time against them. I'll be curious to see if Kyler can keep up with them. And if history shows us anything, Kyler can keep up with anybody. So right. I expect this to be a high-scoring game. It should be a great game. I'm going to take Bills on top because it makes more sense that the Bills defense can stop the Cardinals than the Cardinals defense can stop Josh Allen.
It'll be interesting. One thing to note, taking a look at what the Cardinals did last week, they played the Miami Dolphins, and the Dolphins defense is severely underrated for what they have been able to do. You're talking about on the outside Xavier Howard and Byron Jones. You're talking about a defensive front that is consistently getting better over time. All the free agent acquisitions that they've been able to make over the last 2 years are extremely important and panning out in various ways for them. So, I would almost say that what you saw from the Dolphins defense is probably what you're going to get from the Bills defense. I think they're right on par with each other. And if you asked me that earlier in the season, I probably would have said the Bills by far and away were better. But I think the Bills defense has come down to earth a little bit more. I think the Dolphins are playing at an extraordinary level right now.
Yeah, it will be very similar. I do agree with that.
And again, the reason I bring that up is because Kyler Murray was still able to put on a show. So if you're expecting that, if you can, if he was able to do that against the Dolphins, I expect that he'll be able to do that against the Bills as well. And I think it'll be very interesting. The one person that you didn't talk about is the revitalized utilization of Larry Fitzgerald at the slot receiver. They utilized him a couple times over the middle. It's nothing notable, but his ability to be that security blanket and almost act like a tight end because he runs short underneath routes. He's very sure-handed. He's hard to take down. He's a thick body. I think that helps Kyler Murray with Christian Kirk and DeAndre Hopkins. You have the deeper middle of the field plus the very deep outside of the field, and then you have Larry Fitzgerald on the underneath stuff if you need to go to him there. But they have such amazing talent. It'll be interesting to see. I think Chase Edmonds will definitely get another opportunity to showcase his talent. The young running back 2 weeks ago was extremely, extremely productive. Last week, he faltered a little bit. I'd be interested to see what he's able to do in both the running and the passing game in this matchup.
Yeah, as a New England fan, I am imploring the NFL to bump this game up to Sunday Night Football and take the Patriots Baltimore Ravens game out of this spot, because this matchup is far beyond better than what we're about to get. We're going to get a blowout by the Baltimore Ravens, and no one wants to see that. We'd rather see this in prime time. Don't make this a 4:25 game. Make this an 8:20 game, and make the Patriots play at 4 o'clock. This is the matchup to see in prime time. This is going to be fireworks every single drive, and that's what you want to see in a primetime game, not a team going 4-0 over and over and over.
Yeah, for sure. I would love to see this as a Sunday Night Football game. My only concern is that I don't know if the NFL is willing to do that to the Buffalo Bills, because they would, the Arizona Cardinals, because they'd be playing at 5 o'clock their time. I don't know if that's something that they want to change to on the Tuesday of that week without at least a week more notice.
We just saw them change the week 11, one of the week 11 primetime games. So yeah, I would expect that there won't be any changes to the schedule. It's wishful hoping or wishful thinking, but this game, enjoy this one, because it's probably gonna be the last good game of Sunday.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then finally, the last game that we want to talk about is the Seattle Seahawks at the Los Angeles Rams. Again, yet another divisional matchup that we have going on here. Mr. Unlimited Russell Wilson and
Not looking so unlimited.
his partner in crime, DK Metcalf, going against the vaunted Los Angeles Rams defense and Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey and those boys. So this is going to be one of those heavyweight games to watch for sure. This is going to be something that I think may spill out into a little aggression after the plays, and these two teams don't like each other. There's a lot of animosity amongst each other. Obviously, division rivals fighting for the top of the division, fighting for playoff rankings, and with all the volatile personalities that the Los Angeles Rams have on the defensive side of the ball, and how volatile we've seen DK Metcalf can be, I expect some fireworks in this game for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep this one short because I don't expect much out of this game. Cooper Kupp is out for a while. It's just Robert Woods. I know Seattle's defense is abysmal, so that gives the Rams offense some hope. But the Rams offense has been subpar compared to the bar they've set over the last few years with Sean McVay. Like these guys have been studs in this offense, and now that Todd Gurley's gone, Brandon Cooks is gone, it seems like everybody is kind of doesn't know what to do with themselves. So I would expect that the Rams put up a fair fight, but Seattle's offense is just way too powerful for this Rams defense. They have definitely not been performing well this season. I don't expect them to be able to handle Seattle. I think this should be a blowout. I would put this at least a double-digit win for the Seattle Seahawks.
See, you think that, but again, these divisional matchups, they play so different. They play, like, these games are so hard to... I mean, when you looked at the New England Patriots and the Buffalo Bills, going into that game, we were like, the Patriots have no chance. This is, going to be an easy game. This game will be over maybe by the third quarter, and we'll call it there. But New England stuck around. They were with Buffalo all the way around. We see it time and time again. I mean, again, you can look at the Saints Buccaneers game from this past week. It's the same exact thing. These divisional games, they play differently, and there are times where things that should never happen end up happening. So I would almost be a little weary to say that the Seahawks are going to, they should absolutely bludgeon the Rams, but I don't believe that's going to be what we end up getting. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see for sure. This is, yeah, I know. I agree with you that a lot of divisional matchups are tough, as we just saw on Sunday Night Football. They can play out very differently, and just because it's a divisional matchup, it's not always going to be a competitive one. So I would, this isn't going to be another Buccaneers loss for the Rams, but I expect the Rams to put up maybe 14 points in this game. I just, with the loss of Cooper Kupp, yeah, you have Josh Reynolds and you have Robert Woods, but and Van Jefferson. I just don't think these young guys, these guys who aren't put into that number 2 role and putting Robert Woods into that clear-cut number 1 role, I don't think it's going to be an easy transition for him. I don't think it's going to play out like a lot of people think it will, and that's why I don't think it'll be as competitive as most divisional matchups are.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to say the least. But like I said, these are the 3 matchups that we've handpicked that we are interested to watch and interested for this week. I think I'd like to hear what you guys have to say about the all 3 of these matchups, or let us know what matchup you're most interested in watching this weekend, because there's a whole hell of a lot of great football that's being played out there, and a lot of teams aren't getting the recognition they deserve. So shout out which game you're going to be focused on. Let us know if we can pan away from NFL Red Zone, or if we should focus on Red Zone to find that matchup. We definitely want to be able to do so.
We only get so many games on the East Coast.
That's very true. With that being said, we thank you all for watching. I appreciate everybody who got to this point. Make sure that you guys are liking the video if you liked it. If you didn't, let us know what you think we should change. We're trying to do this for you guys. We want to do everything we can. We want to make this the most entertaining time possible for you guys. But overall, thank you guys so much for those who have subscribed. You are starting to help grow our channel. We are growing in multiple different ways on the podcast side of things. YouTube has done incredible for us. Like Nick said, 95% of the people that watched over the last 2 weeks have not been subscribed to the channel. I don't know what you guys are doing, but it's free. Hit the damn subscribe button. All right. I appreciate you guys. Make sure to tell each other you love, tell your family you love them, tell your friends you love them. Be nice to each other. Peace and love, baby.